So let's take this spreadsheet apart step by step. Now the first three columns, this is what we're going to call our reference currency. This is going to help us to evaluate relative volatility. Now anything that's in a cell this color is an input for you. Now, I'm assuming that the account currency being used is the US dollar, but it could be anything. Then underneath here, we're going to use the euro, which is usually what I recommend, as our reference currency. So the base and the quote is the euro to the US dollar, and I've input the current rate for that particular pair. Now, what happens here in the next section is it breaks down this pair into its component pairs, which in this case happens to be the euro to the US dollar is the first pair, and I know what its rate is, and then the dollar to the dollar, which is just breaking down the quote, which we know what that is. That's just going to be 1. Now, over here on the right-hand side, I have the target currency. This is the cross that we're trying to reference in order to understand two things. One, what is its relative volatility? And then how is that relative volatility adjusted for its pip value, which is probably not going to be, if it's a cross, something like $10, which would be true for a full lot of the euro. So I've put in the base and the quote of this target currency along with its rate, so its current rate. Down below, it's taken the base and the quote of that pair and it's broken it out. The first breakout is for the base portion, and that's the pound versus the US dollar, and I know what that particular pair is worth. So in this case, it was $1.4033. The second half of this target currency pair that we're trying to evaluate is the Aussie. Now this information is going to be input for you automatically by the spreadsheet. It plots it right in here, and all I have to do is go find out, well, what's the current exchange rate for the Aussie? Well, it's 0.79073. Now you'll notice, if you're sharp-eyed here, that usually this particular pair is quoted the other direction. It's usually listed as the Australian dollar to the US dollar, where the US dollar is on the right-hand side. And here it's been flipped. So I've accounted for that in this spreadsheet for you to use. There's a pull-down box right there where you'll pull that down and you'll select yes, and it will adjust it for you automatically. Now what has it told us? Well, so far it's told us that the pip value, so the minimum movement in a full lot, would be $7.91 in this particular, the target currency pair. Now we already know how the euro to the US dollar works. Its pip value is worth $10. So there is a difference there. We also know that there's a difference in the relative amount of volatility between these two pairs. So I have accounted for that in this section of the spreadsheet. And all you have to do is type in the value that you find for the average true range for currency number 1. This is our reference. And currency number 2, this is our target, which I did, and you saw on those previous charts. 0.0105 for the euro and 0.0165 for the pound to the Australian dollar. Now from here, it's done a bunch of calculations for us, and it's given me a relative size that accounts not just for volatility, but also for pip value. Now that's going to do a lot of work for us automatically to make sure that we're being as consistent as possible. Now I could do the rest by hand, or I can just let the spreadsheet do it, and that is by calculating our position size. Now that I have this information, let's just make some assumptions. Let's say that account equity, or the value of your account, is $10,000, and that the maximum amount you would be willing to lose in any one position is 2.5%. These are numbers you've seen before. So that would give us generically a position size of $250. But if I adjust that by what we've determined over on the left-hand side of our spreadsheet, then I know that the adjusted position size should be $201.19. So what I've done is adjusted this particular potential trade for the difference in volatility as well as the difference in pip values. Now it may take you a few times through this spreadsheet, and you can experiment with it all you want, but it'll streamline your analysis a lot. So it'll make this calculation a lot easier to make sure that your positions are of equal size. So one is not leading around the others by the nose, or one that turned out to be a really great trade on a non-volatile pair has not had that much of an influence on your overall portfolio.